All right. Good morning, everyone. It is an honor to be here with you all today. Thank you so much for bringing the energy and spending your day here with us today. As you've already heard, our theme today is Identity Game On. Because whether you're fighting fraud or building trust or navigating AI, the reality remains the same. The landscape is shifting faster than ever before. The teams who succeed in this environment are not necessarily the ones with the perfect playbook. They're the ones who can read the field, adapt in real time, and perform when pressure is at its highest. That's why there couldn't be a better place for improved 2026 than right here inside the Bank of America Stadium. And we couldn't ask for a better guest to help kick us off this morning. Our opening keynote speaker knows a thing or two about succeeding in unpredictable environments. Greg Olsen spent 14 seasons in the NFL, earned 3 Pro Bowl selections, helped lead the Carolina Panthers into the Super Bowl, and became one of the most accomplished tight ends in the league history. Today, he's one of the most respected voices in sports broadcasting, earning multiple Sports Emmy awards as a Fox Sports analyst, where it's his job to anticipate what's coming next, make sense of complexity in real time, and help others to see the game differently. This morning, Greg will join us for a conversation on winning in unpredictable environments and the lessons that leaders can apply when the stakes are high, the landscape is shifting, and every decision matters. So please join me in giving a warm, improved welcome to Greg Olsen.
Dallas Cowboy Cheerleader. That's their big song.
I was hoping you would run and do a split on the page.
I'm not. No, my pants might split, but not me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. So I want to start with a little bit of your background and your story, and I want to take it all the way back. So you grew up in Wayne, New Jersey in the 90s, yep. And you started playing football at a very early age. And actually your dad was your football coach. So football wasn't just something that you did after school. It ran in the family.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing and very early football days? What were the early years like for you?
Yeah, so some kids they pick the sport, and some other kids the sport picks them. We were born into a football family. As you said, my dad was the local high school football coach. He coached at the public school that me and my brothers went to for 30 years. Coached well over 40 years that you can see in there in that picture. That picture there on the left, assuming on your left too. That was after we had lost 7 state championships. My dad had lost 7 consecutive high school state championships. My older brother, Chris, lost his freshman year, his sophomore year, his junior year, and his senior year. He lost all 4. Some of those teams were incredible, undefeated, and we lost in the state finals. So I lost my freshman year, my sophomore year, and my junior year, which was my older brother's senior year. And then finally, my senior year, we won our first, and then my dad ended up winning 10. So we just needed to get over the hump. But so grew up in North Jersey, grew up the son. Both my parents were school teachers. My mom was a coach. And then when she had my older brother, just continued to be a school teacher, did some special education, some physical education, teaching for 30 years in a different public school back in New Jersey. My dad started as a PE teacher, worked his way up to athletic director, dean of students, typical like education admin path, but his real passion was coaching. And that was the world that me and my brothers grew up. I had a brother who was a year older than me and then 10 years younger than me. So there was 3 of us. And our summer vacations, I joke with my kids, they're like, when are we going to go to the beach? I'm like, I didn't go to the beach for like 10 years. Our summer vacation was my dad was working the Penn State or the Rutgers or whatever Northeast college football camp. And he would bring me and my brother and we would like sleep on the dorm room floor. And that was summer camp. That was what we did. So I grew up in locker rooms, grew up on buses, grew up in coaches' meetings. It was really all we ever knew. And growing up from the time we were the water boys, eventually, like the next big step is you were the ball boy. You got to like go out and give the official the ball when your offense came on the field. So that was like middle school. And then the real dream for us growing up, we didn't dream about being college football players. We didn't dream about, who our favorite NFL player was at the time. We idolized and dreamed about being my dad's, I grew up playing running back, whoever his senior captain running back was, like that was the number I wore. Those were the guys we emulated. We loved being in the locker room with them and helping them, get ready for the game or whatever. That's what we dreamed of being. And all we ever wanted to do was run out on Friday nights and play football for my dad. And it's still the greatest sports experience of my life. I was very fortunate. All three of us were able to go on and play at the college level. And fortunately for me, I was able to make a career out of it. But those early days playing for him, the hot summers, the long days, back then, there were no rules. Like you were allowed to practice 1,000 times a day. There was no heat restrictions. The trainer wasn't walking out. It was just, it's really where my foundation of my career started. And I'm so grateful for it. My dad and I now coach my two sons at their school here in Charlotte, middle school football for the last 4 years. So he's still coaching. He's still telling me what to do. And but I'm grateful for it.
It's giving Friday night lights in my life. Yeah.
That's what it was. It was the biggest thing in town. It was the biggest thing in all lives. And I try to tell a lot of these young kids now that we work with and we spend a lot of time at the school, everyone is so excited for what's next. Everyone's so excited. I want to be a college football player. And I say, guys, I'm just telling you, and I know I'm like the old man yelling at the clouds. I get it. But like, this will be the greatest sports experience of your life. Stop being in a hurry, because once it's gone, you don't ever get to go back. And some of them listen, most of them kind of shake their head like, yeah, old man, like you don't know what you're talking about. This is a new day. I'm like, okay, you're going to come back in a few years and you're going to, man, high school was the best thing I ever did. And I was like, I told you.
So having your dad also be your coach could be kind of an interesting dynamic. Did you feel like the bar was set higher for you? Did you feel this extra pressure? How did he manage both dad and coach roles?
Yeah. And he was, picture like your prototypical high school football coach, like in the 80s, 90s, and then magnify it by like 50. That was the environment that we played in. It was very high standards. It was very hard. The hard was the reason. Like the obstacle was the way. Like all of those mantras now, like that was the entire foundation of everything his program was about. We did not have a lot of 5-star. His 3 best recruits of his 35 years of coaching were probably his 3 kids. Everyone else were just true program, waited till junior and senior year to play, dreamed their whole lives working up through the local Parks and Rec and through middle school to be a high school football player at Wayne Hills High School. Like it was a big deal to these kids. And for a lot of them, they had to wait until they were juniors. A lot of them waited till they were seniors, but it was all about just, they wanted to be a part of it. There was this culture that had been built over decades. So it was very high standards. It was hard. It was, no one was afraid to tell you you were wrong. No one was afraid to tell you that it wasn't good enough. And I think when I look back on it and those standards and the way they were set is really how I was able to, when I went off to college, and a lot of kids are hit in the face by college, and maybe it's the first time you've ever been coached hard. Maybe it's the first time you were the third string on your team. But for a lot of these kids, they've always been the best at everything they've ever done. Well, when I got to college and some of the other freshmen look around saying, man, this is intense. These coaches are hard. I look around, I'll go, you should have went and played for my dad. You know what I mean? Like, you should have went and played for my high school. This is great. And, so I'd have such fondness and such appreciation for getting a real dose of what that was like. And my dad would sit down with me and my older brother at the time, and he would say, if I'm ever going to err, and you guys just have to understand this, if I'm ever going to err on being too easy on my 2 sons or too hard on my 2 sons, I'm always going to err on the side of being too hard. So you guys are either going to handle that and you're going to grow, or it's going to break you. And then we got to figure out whether this is the right arrangement. But I can't coach the running back. I can't coach the wide receiver or the other kids on the team and have those parents sit up in the bleachers and say, okay, but he doesn't treat his kids the same way. His kids don't get held accountable. His kids don't get yelled at. And it was the exact opposite. And he got to stand up there and say, listen, I'm coaching your son probably easier than I'm coaching my own son. So people couldn't ever criticize him for playing daddy ball and all of that. And the final piece was, he was like, if you guys are good, it'll take care of yourself. So you better be the hardest working guys. You better be the best players on the field. You better hold yourselves and your teammates to a higher standard than anyone else out here, because the second you don't, people are going to question this arrangement. And we never shied away from that. We loved that. We cherished it. We took great pride. And we had an awesome career there, just making great memories.
Okay, so after high school, you headed off to University of Miami. Any University of Miami folks in here? Or you got,
we got
one or two?
Two. Okay, here we go.
And then in 2007, you were drafted 31st overall by the Chicago Bears. What was stepping into the NFL like for the first time? What did it take to prove yourself at that level?
You know, what I look back on in my career and I'm so grateful for is each level prepared me so well for the next, right? So I just talked about like what I was exposed to at an early age, from middle school through high school, the program, the expectations, the accountability, the discipline, all of that really played well when I got to college, right? When I walked into a really a full-time job of being a college athlete, it wasn't so jarring as maybe it was for some of the other kids based on what high schools around the country that they had come out of heading to Miami. Now, when I got to Miami, we were Georgia, Alabama of today. So my junior year in high school, Miami won the national championship. My senior year in high school, Miami lost the national championship. And then I got there, call it 6 months later. So we were at the height of the college football world. And you talk about uber competitive, and you talk about walking out on the field with guys that are literally playing for their lives. They're playing for their livelihoods, their careers every single day. The competitive environment on a practice field at the University of Miami was unlike anything I would ever go on to experience for the next 15 years in the NFL. And, my freshman year, we had still stands as the NFL record from that draft class of 2004. So my freshman year at Miami, I'm a redshirt scout team tight end, and I break the huddle, and I'm the University of Florida tight end, or I'm, Wake Forest or whoever we're getting ready to play. And when I break the huddle, you look across and there's 7 future first round NFL players on defense. That's not even talking about the guys that would get drafted in the first round on offense. We had Vince Wilfork and Sean Taylor, who's arguably one of the best players of all time. Unfortunately, his life and career got cut short. But Sean Taylor was a first-round pick. Vince Wilfork, Jonathan Vilma, DJ Williams. I mean, these guys that went on to not only be All-American college players, but first-round and All-Pro NFL players. They were all on the same team. And I'm an 18-year-old kid from New Jersey saying, like, nope. This is there's levels to this. So that really prepared me. And then being able to take that from college to the NFL. Again, I had great timing in my career. I always got to the team when they were at their height and then never got back there. So maybe it was me. So I got to Chicago. I was drafted you only had the 31st overall pick when you lose the Super Bowl. So the Bears played in the Super Bowl. They lost to Indianapolis that February. I got drafted there in April, and we never made it back to the Super Bowl my next 4 years. So as you can sense, there's like a pattern here. I get there when you're at the top, and then we get worse until the Panthers.
So in that type of hyper-competitive environment, can you tell me a little bit more about just your mindset and how you manage in that environment?
Yeah, I realized very quickly self-awareness is could be a rare commodity in this world, but if you have it, it can be very powerful. Well, I learned very early on as an 18, 19-year-old kid at Miami that I was going to have to find a different approach, a different path than maybe some of the other kids that I shared the locker room with, the guys who walked in who were the best athlete on any field and any court they've ever stepped foot on. And we're talking about the highest, the Devin Hesters of the world, the Sean Taylors of the world. And these are the guys that you're having to either compete against or compete for a job, for a starting spot, and work your way up the depth chart. So I realized very quickly it was not going to be based on how fast I ran or how strong I was in the weight room or how high I jumped. Like the physical qualities of playing the sport were never going to be a huge differentiator for me. And I learned that. I'm glad I learned that early on in my college career because I was able to pivot and say, okay, no one's going to work harder than me, right? The easy things, but no one's going to understand the game better than me. No one's going to understand the playbook, the feel, the nuance of the game that maybe I don't have to be the fastest guy, but I can get open better than the guy who's faster than me. Or I'm not the strongest guy, but with positioning and technique, I can still block the bigger, stronger guy, right? So just finding ways to survive became really the foundation for the rest of my career. So I was able to take that and just continue to improve, continue to find ways to better myself, continue to find ways to get an edge over both the guys on my own team, but then, of course, the guys that we were playing against on any given Saturday or Sunday. So that mentality of constant everyday improvement, constant elevation of your game, being very truthful and honest with yourself that you have holes in your game. You have things you're not good at. If you don't fix them, you're not going to play. And that was never an option for me. Like, I was not a kid that was just happy to be on the team. I wasn't just happy that they gave me that cool Miami helmet and I got to wear it and run out of the smoke. Like, that was never good enough for me. If I was there, I wanted to contribute. I wanted to have a role. That role grew as I got older and got better. But that foundation from high school to college was really just how I was able to stay in the league. At no given time in my entire life was I ever the best player, often on my own team, let alone across all of the teams. But when you find ways to just continue to improve, find ways to differentiate yourself from the competition, coaches value that, they trust that, and they want to keep guys like that around.
All right. So you spent 4 seasons in Chicago and then you got traded to Carolina. You may not have been thrilled about that at first. I don't know. You let us know. But you went on to make NFL history. You were the first tight end ever with 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. So there's definitely a lesson there in adaptability. Can you tell us a little bit about that stage?
Yeah. So, all right. So picture this. So I get drafted to the Chicago Bears, one of the most storied franchises in all of professional sports. I mean, in a lot of ways, the NFL's roots and history are tied through, George Halas and the rivalry with the Bears and the Green Bay Packers, and really the origins of the entire league go through, the Chicago Bears organization. It had different names and whatnot. But so I played 4 years there. You signed for 5-year first round picks back then would sign for 5-year contracts. So I finished my 4th year. Well, I'll back up. After my 2nd year, I lead the team in catches and receptions after my 3rd year. So I go into the 4th year, and in free agency, the first night of free agency, back then it started at midnight. So I'm thinking, like, I had a really good year. I've led us in receiving the last couple of years. I've steadily gotten better. Back then, tight ends didn't have 1,000 yards. There was like 1 or 2 guys a year that did it. It's very different than it is today, where the tight ends are really big parts of the offense and passing games and all that. This is 2007, 8, 9, so a long time ago. They go out and pay big money to an NFL free agent tight end who's going to come in. And when you get paid a lot of money, whether you're better or not, you're going to play, right? So at that point in my career, I'm saying my days in Chicago are probably over. So I get called in by the general manager the night before the draft. And so this is going into my 4th year. And he says, hey, we have a trade on the table with the New England Patriots. And unless this guy they're targeting falls out of the first round, they're going to trade their 2nd round pick for you. So just being honest with you, be around the next 48 hours. I'm like, gosh, like that kind of sucks. But all right, whatever. Well, long story short, the guy they were targeting who fell out of the first name's name was Rob Gronkowski. And he fell into the 2nd round. They called back and said, hey, we're going to take this guy in the 2nd round. We thought he'd be gone. He lasted. We're going to take him with that pick. We're not trading you anymore. So really long story short, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of emotions there. You're bitter, you're mad. It's like, screw you. Why do you don't want me? I don't want to be here. We make it all work. My 4th year ends up being the best season, not my best season, but the best season for our team. We go on, we make the NFC Championship. We lose a really tight game against the Green Bay Packers at Soldier Field. In the NFC, 1 game away. You're shaking your head. Are you a Bears fan? You just got, oh, okay. I was like, I know, I Bears fans, this hurts their soul. Losing to the Green Bay Packers, let alone for a trip. They ended up winning the Super Bowl. 2 weeks later. So that was a tough offseason. So now so I have a good year. We have team success. I'm now going into training camp. I report for training camp. I get a call from my agent. You are being traded. They're not going to sign you to a new contract, and we'll have to find out in the next 24 hours. So now I'm at this little small school in Northwest Indiana called Olivet Nazarene University. It's like all Wofford. For any of you Charlotte Panther people, like when we did training camp down at Wofford, that's the Bears. Wofford is Olivet Nazarene. So I'm sitting in this little tiny dorm room. We don't have televisions, and I'm sitting around. I get traded to the Carolina Panthers. So mind you, I went from one game away from the Super Bowl to the worst team in football. We had the number one pick that previous spring. We drafted some one-year quarterback. We thought he was going to be good. Nobody knew. They had never practiced as a team because there was a lockout that offseason. We had a new coach in Ron Rivera. This quarterback no one really knew much about other than winning the national championship named Cam Newton. We had the number one overall pick for a reason because they only won 2 games the year before. And I couldn't tell you if Charlotte was in North or South Carolina. I grew up in the Northeast, went to college in Miami, did not spend a lot of time in like this Atlantic region. North, South Carolina, Virginia, to me, it was all the same. So about 6 weeks before that phone call, my wife and I have our first kid. So not only do I have to call my wife from a dorm room, which was weird to begin with, I have to call my wife from the dorm room and say, hey, we're being traded. I know you have a 6-week-old baby at home that we just painted his nursery and brought him home and did all that. You're going to have to pack the house up by yourself because I'm flying to Charlotte because I got training camp. So you got to pack the house up, sell it, put all the stuff in our car, and drive from Chicago, and I'll let you know where we're going to be in Charlotte because I don't know anything about it. I rent a house in Ballantyne, which is like 40 minutes south of here. And all that being said, it turned out to be the greatest thing that ever happened to us. We continued to just steadily improve. My career got better. Our team's success got better, obviously culminated in the 15 season, making it to the Super Bowl. After all those years, we finally made it back to the Super Bowl. But yeah, ups, downs, right when you thought you had your career figured out, something would throw it off course, but that's life. And those transitions were where the greatest growth for me and for the team were, and we're very thankful for them.
All right. So
it's like a 15-year story as fast as I can make it.
All right. So you've settled in Charlotte. We have a photo of your beautiful family here. You have 3 beautiful children. We have your oldest, Tate, and twins, Talbot and TJ. So TJ is your fighter. He was born with a heart defect and went through, I think, 4 open heart surgeries. And this is all when you were in the middle of your NFL career. Can you tell us a little bit about TJ's journey and also the Hardest Yard Foundation, which you founded in response?
Yeah, kind of cool. Coincidentally, today, so my wife's on the right. The boy next to her is TJ. Today, June 4th, is actually his 5-year anniversary of his heart transplant. So we'll celebrate him later today. So he gets like 2 days. He gets his birthday, obviously. And then he gets his heart anniversary, which for the transplant world is a huge deal for these kids. So he was born. So that story that I tried to get through without boring everybody. So the guy on the left, Tate, next to me, he's born June of 2011. I get traded July of 2011. So 6 weeks later, we come to Charlotte March of 2012. So just 6 months. We find out we're pregnant with the twins. We don't even own a house in Charlotte. We don't even know which way is up. And he's 9 months old, 8 months old. We find out that we're pregnant with the twins. Shortly thereafter, we go to one of the ultrasounds and we find out that TJ is going to be born with a very serious congenital heart defect called hypoplastic left heart syndrome. In essence, his left side of his heart is completely non-functional. The valves the 2 valves that have blood come in and out of the heart of that chamber never opened in development in utero. If left untreated, it is 100% fatal. And he, in essence, is born with only half of a heart. So we have like this catchphrase, have a heart, at some of our foundational stuff. So he was born October. My wife's a champ. We were able to have the twins born on our bye week. So I played a game. Yeah. So one of the nice things about having the twins is we could like pick our delivery date. And obviously he had a lot of special needs that he needed to be attended to. So I played a game here in this stadium on Sunday. And the twins were born on Wednesday. And then I was able to be at practice the following Monday. But on Friday of that week, he had open heart surgery at 2 days old. And they completely rework his heart to be a single ventricle anatomy, meaning just the right side of his heart is going to do all of the work that the two sides would normally do. And I'm assuming all of us, if not pretty much all of us, statistically speaking. He had his neck surgery at 5 months old. He had his final of the 3 planned surgeries at 2 years old. So he lived from 2 to 8 as what they call a single ventricle baby. He had half of a working heart. The modern miracles of medicine, the way they're able to reconfigure and replumb, I don't exactly know even what they did, but he lived like that for 6 years. In May of 2021, I had just retired my last season coming in 2020. That offseason, we moved back here to Charlotte from Seattle. In January, in May of that year, he went into full heart failure. Wasn't feeling good that morning. We knew something was up, took him into the hospital, was put immediately into the ICU, and within the next week, we were put on the heart transplant list. He got his heart. He had his surgery on June 4th, 2021, and it's been the best thing that's ever happened to him. As hard as it was and as difficult of a journey as it was, his last 5 years are infinitely more enjoyable, better quality of life than his previous 8. And for that, we're very grateful.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so now with kids, you've flipped to the other side and become a sports parent yourself. You've been really vocal about where youth sports is heading today, with social media, kids being elevated as superheroes before they're even old enough to drive. Can you tell us what worries you most about youth sports today?
Yeah, I'm probably a little bit of a hypocrite, and probably guilty of a lot of the things that now I look back on and say I would do it so much different. Right. When our oldest was coming up, it's all we knew. And he's 7 and he's 8. And it's fun to be on the challenge baseball team. And it's fun to go play in these tournaments that are in Columbia, South Carolina, or in Atlanta, Georgia. And I look back now when they're 14, almost 15 and 13. And I go, we gave up our summer to go drive around to Atlanta, Georgia to play 8-year-old baseball. So so at the time I was guilty of a lot of these things. And I look back and I said, if I had another child, I would do things very differently. But the reality is there's a lot of really good stuff going on in the youth sports world. We spend pretty much 7 days a week with our kids. Like I said, I coach my younger son, TJ's baseball team 3 days a week, and tournaments. We're going to Myrtle Beach next week. So here I am complaining. I'm going to spend the next full week in Myrtle Beach playing 13-year-old baseball. So again, hypocrite. Work with my daughter, coached her basketball team, help her with some of her track stuff that she does. I've coached my son in football, Tate, my oldest, for 5 years. So we are actively involved in coaching them. And there is so many great things that are going on, right? The access to training, the access to information, the access to great coaches, the information, the way these kids can take care of their bodies, is so drastically different than the environment that I grew up in. And for that, we're creating very good athletes. And our young athletes today are far superior than at any other time in our country's history. But it comes, in my opinion, it comes with a little bit of a downfall. I think we are setting up a lot of kids that at 12 and 13 and 14 years old, their identity has been wrapped up into is you are a fantastic soccer player. You are a fantastic baseball player, football player, whatever it is. And typically those designations weren't happening until you were in high school. And maybe as a sophomore, junior in high school, you started getting recruited and the idea started coming in. Okay, maybe I do have a future in this given sport. Well, we've taken that timeline and we've completely expedited it to now those conversations, those career paths, for lack of better words, are being made at 10 and 12 years old. And while these kids are wildly good, you go to a 13-year-old baseball tournament these days, it is mind-blowing how good these kids are, how hard they throw, how they field. They're incredible. But I just have a hard time making it clear that for these kids' long-term future, that the greatest day of their life, the pinnacle and peak of their life, happens at 13 years old. NFL players, professional basketball players, and professional athletes for generations have struggled in the transition to when your career is over. Who are you? What is your identity? And what do you do next? That was hard enough when those transitions were happening in your mid-20s. That's an early age of any human to go through these huge career and life-altering transitions, right? Everything you've ever known your whole life is now over and you're 25. What do I do next? Well, what if that now is when you're 17? And what if that is now when you're 16? And we just continue. We couldn't handle guys can't handle it at 25. I just think that's a very delicate balance right now that, yes, it's okay to go be competitive. Yes, it's okay to have dreams and aspirations and go be as great as you can. We harp on it with our kids all the time. But there's also a fine line between we are not looking to establish what our next 50-year career path is going to be in middle school. I don't know what the answer is, but that's clearly the path that we're headed. And I think we're going to look back on it in 15 and 20 years, and we're going to have a problem on our hands. And it's unfortunate.
So speaking of life-altering transitions, so you retire in 2020 at the age of 36. You've also been a professional athlete your entire life, and now you're not. You take on a new opportunity with Fox in broadcasting, and this is something that was totally new to you. You've said on day one, initially, you had no idea what you were doing at first.
Still don't.
What was navigating that unknown like for you, and also again, completely shifting your identity from who you were previously?
Yeah. And again, to the earlier conversation, there I was at 36 years old, and all I had ever known my whole life was athletics. And then for the last, call it 18 years, all I knew was football, right? From the day I left high school and I became a full-time football only guy. When we were kids, we played everything. But from, 18 years old when I got to college in Miami till 36. So half my life at the time, all I ever knew was being a full-time, around the clock, around the calendar, training and preparing to be the best football player I could be. And it's all encompassing. Your entire life revolves around it. Vacations revolved around it. Kids' birthday parties revolved around it. Dinner plans revolved around it. And that was just the way it was. All of a sudden now that's over in a day. You just say, okay, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And it's over. I was very fortunate that I had something that I could just seamlessly go into. I had signed my contract with Fox knowing the 2020 season in Seattle would be my last year. I was able to sign my contract with Fox and have that waiting for me when I was done. So in that regard, I was very fortunate. I had done a lot of work with Fox while I was playing. In 2017 and 2019 on my bye week when everyone's going to Cabo and Cancun and wherever, I flew to Minnesota one year and I flew to New York one year, and I joined Fox Crews and I called real NFL games on my bye week on Sunday afternoon as just like a dry rehearsal run. I walked in with a little piece of paper with some notes. They put the headset on. They told me where my talkback button was, and they said, when the light goes on and it goes, you just got to talk. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. I can talk. And now here I am 6 years into the career. So for that, I was very fortunate to be given that opportunity and that, and that path. But what was the best part about it, and not the money, not the career, the best part about it was, for the first time in a long time, I had to start from the ground floor, right? I had to learn an industry that I did not spend my entire life doing. At the end of football, I knew it pretty well. I'd put an entire life into it. It was not overly interesting. It wasn't overly stimulating. There was very little left to be exposed to. Well, now I'm on the complete opposite side of the coin. I have no idea what anybody's talking about. I have no idea what's going on in the truck. They're calling for Sky replays. I have no idea what's going to pop up on my monitor. that it was very invigorating. It was very stimulating being challenged to learn something completely foreign. I knew nothing about television production, but I did know football. And I did feel like I had an ability to talk and tell the story and try to figure out how to put those two things together. So I'm still learning. I still always joke, like, I don't do TV. I just talk ball. Like, I don't really even understand. I've had great partners, great production groups that take care of the TV for me. And they just then let me do my thing, which is just the football part. I've been very lucky in that regard, but I'm now going into my 6th year and I'm still learning how to really do this job. That's been very good for me, just mentally and just keeping me motivated and stimulated here in my quote unquote retirement.
Okay, but then plot twist. Tom Brady.
Always a plot twist.
We
have lots of plot twists if you couldn't.
Tom Brady decides to retire and then unretire.
Could you imagine the nerve of that guy?
Takes your job.
Took my job.
What? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can tell you a lot about it. How much time do we have? 7 minutes? I'm just kidding. Yeah, so again, everything in my life, I actually got to speak at the University of Miami commencement address. Quick side note. I spoke at the University of Miami commencement address a couple weeks ago, and like literally the entire point of my entire conversation was, you all sit here and like the world wants you to all know exactly what you should do. I'm sitting here now in my 40s saying, for all the stuff that I've been exposed to, at no point was I ever in full control of anything that's gone on. Every time I thought I knew what was going to happen, the complete opposite happened. So good luck, figure it out, fail. You're going to get up tomorrow and do something else and it's all going to work out great. Like that was literally my big like rah message to him, was like, I don't know anything. So I don't know. They just asked me to come talk to. So I do 1 year of the B crew. So the A, B, C, etc. So I come out of the game and I'm on the B crew with Kevin Burkhardt, the guy you see right there. He actually called for, you talk about starting from the bottom and working your way up. Kevin went to college in my hometown in New Jersey. And when I was a high school football player and my dad was the coach, Kevin worked for WGHT, which is like a local AM radio station that did Friday and Saturday night high school sports. So in the fall, it was football. He would come to our practices and he was like the high school radio voice of Northern New Jersey football. And then 15 years later, me and him got to call a Super Bowl together. So that was a cool story. So he was my first partner in year 1. In year 2, the A crew at Fox that was above us at the time was Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. They surprisingly crazy walled went and signed with ESPN to do Monday Night Football. So there was a void at the top of Fox. So there was a lot of rumor and speculation. Were they going to promote Kevin and I from within? Were they going to go out and sign some super big name former player, former coach? So this goes on the whole offseason. They promote Kevin, so he gets promoted to the A. He replaces Joe Buck, but they have yet to replace Troy Aikman. So, of course, we're sitting there saying, like, you should, I know I've only done this for 1 year, but, like, you should promote me and keep us together. Well, Tom retires. They're in conversations. He then unretires, and he goes back to play. But in the background of all of these conversations, they signed Tom to a 10-year contract for whenever his playing days are over. But now he's going to go back and play 1 more year for Tampa. So they call me and they're like, hey, full disclosure, Tom's going to be our A crew guy whenever he comes back. Do you want to do it this year? And oh, by the way, we have the Super Bowl on Fox. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, I'll do it for 1 day, 1 year, 10 years. My ego and pride is not too high. Like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to get in that chair and I'm going to be good at it. And I'm going to make I joke with them now. I'm like, I was going to make it as awkward for you as humanly possible. And so lo and behold, I did that first year. We called the Super Bowl. It was an unbelievable experience. We had a great run through the playoffs, culminated in a iconic Super Bowl. Mahomes, they end up beating the Eagles. The Chiefs beat the Eagles that year in an unbelievable ending. Sorry. You guys got it back a couple years later. But then Tom, after he retired, decided that he was going to take a year off after his playing days. I think he earned it. He got like one fall season off of the last 30 years. I think he deserved that. So I got to do it a second year. So I ended up doing 2 years of the A crew. Then Tom came, started his contract, and now I'm on the B crew with Joe Davis is my partner. He's like the voice of the World Series. He's the voice of the Dodgers. He's incredible. So a little bit of a different path, certainly. You get to the highest high of the industry in year 2, and now in year 6, you're back. So interesting ups and downs, but that's life. And Tom and I have become very good friends. Tom and I have connected more now being in the same industry than we did even when we were playing. We didn't really know each other that well, but it's been awesome. We've competed. We try to push each other. We try to push ourselves to be as good at the job as humanly possible. And that's going to be my approach for as long as they'll have me.
All right. So we're running a little bit short on time, but I do want to touch on Youth Inc. This is the company that you founded. Really quickly, 60 seconds. Can you tell us a little bit about Youth Inc.?
Ooh, 60 seconds. That's hard for me. Yeah, so through the journey that I kind of alluded to earlier about just our experiences now, my wife and I would sit up in bed after a long weekend of baseball tournaments and basketball and football, and we'd sit around and we'd be like, are we doing this right? Like, is it too much? Is it not enough? What are the kids down the street doing? And we finally had this like aha moment where I said, I grew up in this world. I've been intimately involved in the journey of sports at every single level for my entire life. And I sit here in bed and say, I think we might be doing it wrong. I don't have any of the answers. Other families around town and people at our kids' school and people we go out to dinner with, the conversation would always center somehow around your kids' sports experience. And they would ask me, and I would sit there and I'd say, I think I know, but the longer time goes, the less I think I know. And if I felt that way, how did millions and millions of people who did not have intimate knowledge of the youth sports landscape and all the way up through if I don't know, who knows? And so we set out with Youth Inc. original as a content kind of journey. And we've interviewed Tom Brady. We've interviewed Malcolm Gladwell and James Clear. Dr. Michael Gervais is like a world-renowned sports psychologist. We've interviewed Olympians, coaches, parents, name them, all across the youth sports landscape. And it exists in like a podcast, normal podcast format. There's video elements. Well, we've now expanded the entire company in our newest launch over the last 18, 24 months as a full youth sports content platform. So we have original content, docuseries, of course, the flagship pod of me interviewing thought leaders and some of the biggest voices in the sports world and youth sports world still exists. And then there's a parallel commerce engine behind it. Think Fanatics, but for your kid's high school team. Think Fanatics, but for your son or daughter's volleyball team, where you want to wear that really nice shirt that you'd wear today, but the second you put your kid's school logo on it, like the shirt falls apart and the sleeves don't go down and the quality. Well, we said, well, why can't you wear what you would wear on a normal Wednesday night, a Lululemon outfit, but it could be your son or daughter's travel ball team or club. So it's a content engine for like the education, the entertainment of the youth sports world. And then the real underlying kind of machine behind it is a commerce site that we're pretty proud of and we think has an opportunity to be pretty cool. That was not 60 seconds. You're asking me, I'm trying to summarize stories that are like years long. I'm a long-winded person, if you couldn't tell by nature. So I'm really trying my best to make really long stories less long.
Okay, well, this next section is going to be even harder because we are entering the lightning round.
Oh,
I have 5 questions for you.
I'm never a fit for that. Okay, I'm going to do my best.
Just answers. You don't even need to explain.
Okay.
Number 1, who is the tight end to watch this season?
I'm biased. I'm anxious to watch George Kittle. He got hurt bad last year, ruptured his Achilles. He's a good buddy of mine. But I think he's at the top of the heap when healthy, and I think battling back from this Achilles will be interesting. If he can get back healthy, which I think he will, he's pretty unique.
Okay. What is the best pre-game ritual or superstition you've heard or seen?
Oh, that I've heard or seen? Oh, God. I don't know if I could share some of those. We actually had a fun one that this is actually fun, but appropriate. So I don't know where it started. I don't know who started it, but at some point in all of our lives, whether it was like with a team or your group at work or your small group of friends, like something that you look back on with reflect, be like, that was so stupid. But in the moment, it felt so fun. It's almost like inside joke-ish. Well, we had this routine when we got to the stadium on game day that guys wouldn't warm up their pads. So that ended up turning into where everyone really bought into it, and they would walk into the locker room, and everyone would grab each other's shoulder pads and see how hard we could throw them into the wall. Like some guy would be sitting there like all quiet in his pads and be like, "Hey, Luke, his pads aren't warm." And like you would grab his shoulder pads and like throw them across the room. And the new guys on our team were like, "These guys are insane." But again, I look back when I'm saying it out loud. If I were you, I'd be like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But there was something about getting to the locker room, getting the guys engaged, connecting. It's 8:00 in the morning. You got 5 hours till the game starts. And like something as stupid as like throwing each other's shoulder pads into the wall for whatever reason was so fun that we like looked forward to it. We're children, but it was fun nonetheless. So that was like a stupid but fun pregame routine. We probably did that for like 10 years. This wasn't like 2 weeks.
Okay. Will any tight end break your record in the next 5 years? Yes or no?
Yeah. I think at one point, I've only held one record, the most 1,000 yards in a season. Yeah. So this guy named Travis Kelce, he might have a wedding coming up next month that I may or may not be going to. But yeah, so he beat me. And so I got 3. I thought I was going to keep going. I ended up breaking my foot the next year, so I didn't play in enough games to get there. Travis beat me, and I think when his record broke 2 years ago, he was at like 7. So yes, Travis has the most with like 7 in a row. I got 3 in a row. A couple other guys have 4, just not consecutive. So that's like the order of operations.
Okay, we're going to talk about Taylor Swift after this.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
But who's the better cover model, Travis Kelce or Patrick Mahomes?
Kelce's is really good. And knowing him, there's like 3 people on planet Earth that could have worn the outfits he wore for that GQ shoot. That one is not even, I don't know if the rest
the alligator,
it's insane. It's preposterous. And like, the thought of myself even entertaining doing that is so far out in left field that I wouldn't even contain it. So yeah, Travis has a unique ability where like it only works because it's him. And if it was anybody else, they'd be a complete, you know what? So yeah, I'm going to go with Travis.
Okay.
Keep it with my tight ends.
What is the better fashion trend for summer 2026? Shoulder pads or capris?
I was not expecting this question. Who is that on the right? Is that Kendall Jenner?
Yes.
Yeah, Kendall Jenner's going to win. I don't even know what capris are, but I would rather my wife be in that outfit. So I'm going to pick that. Is that fair?
I couldn't agree more.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't need shoulder pads. But if any of you have them on, you look great. You look amazing. I was just looking. I was like, your shirt is fantastic.
Okay, so we are running a little over time. Do we have time to take one or two questions?
We have time.
All right. So we're going to take 1 or 2 questions from the audience. If you guys want to raise your hand, we got mic runners.
Oh, what? Shoulder pads.
Lady in the shoulder pads.
My name is Angela.
Hi, Angela.
So you mentioned earlier, like pushing people really, really hard to bring out the best in them. And I'm a leader and I believe in that as well. I think sometimes the challenge with that is like pushing them hard, but in a way that's also supportive. So in a couple sentences, like what advice can you give us as leaders to follow through, push hard for innovation, always getting better, but doing so in a supportive way so that we don't break people or lose them?
Yeah, I think the order of the operations, and we have not always gotten this right, but like the order of operation is super important, right? It has to be support, then push. If it's push, 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 and then at the end I tell you you're great, that whole time there could be resentment, there could be animosity, there could be some insecurities. So I always look at it through the lens of like what we do. So like when we're coaching the kids' youth teams, right? Like anyone who ever played for our team, if you ask the parents, like it is very challenging. It is hard. We're going to coach them hard at all ages. But I also hope at the end they go, but no one loved our kids more, right? Like hopefully everyone is clear that once you connect with that kid, or in this case, a coworker or whatever, once they understand that I'm not attacking you, right? I'm trying to elevate you to a level that you might not see yet, but I see it in you. And if you trust me and you know that I'm doing this from a place of love, I'm doing this from a place of I care for you like you're my own child, all of a sudden the walls go down, the eye rolls go down, the insecurity, the deflection, the excuse making, it all starts to subtly drift away for everyone but my own kids. And then all of a sudden now I can break through to you. And when I push you and hold you, it's like, man, coach sees more in me. He sees more what I'm capable of. And then they reach it and they go, that was worth it. I'm glad. I think the greatest thing anyone can do for another person is hold them and believe that they have more in them than they're capable of, that they think themselves being capable of. And I think it's hard. I think being the boss is hard. Being the head coach is hard. You're not going to always have fun, light conversations, but improving someone else's life and their career and their skill or whatever it is, I think is the greatest gift we can give. And while not easy at times, in the big picture, I think that's what we're all here to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, go. One more on the end right there.
I think, yeah.
Am I next? Okay. First of all, I'm from Jersey too. I appreciate your the speed and volume of your speaking.
Thank you.
One of the things that came up at dinner last night, we're talking a lot about this as parents, and I think it's the same thing really for anyone that you're trying to nurture, and that sounds like really what you're talking about, right? Where do you balance the independence part? Like, how do you do that in terms of, yes, you're pushing and all this stuff, and then when do you pull back and just let people go on their own and have that ability to try and fail, and then how do you kind of negotiate that?
You sound like you're sitting at my kitchen table. This, at least, again, just speaking personally, this is probably the biggest struggle that we have like in our lives and our families and the teams we're associated with is here I am sitting here, and it's very easy for me to tell my own kids, I'm telling you exactly what you should do. And if you do it, you'll probably have success. And they look at me and like anyone's kids, and they don't think anybody knows what anybody's. I'm in that like teenage years now where they don't like, but it's so hard because my natural instinct is to, well, I'm just going to tell you what to do. That's what you need to do. And if you do it, everything's going to be easy. And then at the same time, letting them have the autonomy to forget their cleats and get to school without their shoes on. And they didn't charge their iPad for their class, and they go to school and they get it incomplete. Should we plug their iPad in for them? Should I race their homework to school and give it to the front office and say, call Tate Olsen down? That's our natural instincts. That's what I want to do. But should I do it? And that's the question we have in our house every single day. Is it better for you to learn the hard way? Right? It's like the whole borrowing versus buying, right? Like if you listen to what I'm saying, you can borrow my experience. You can borrow from your friend, your teacher, your mentor, whoever it is. But to buy it is hard, but it's probably more lasting, right? You have more skin in the game. So as hard as it is for us to sit there and watch our kids be ill-prepared and watch them struggle and watch our teams lose or whatever the case may be, as hard as that is in the moment, at least it's hard for me. I know in the long term, that's what we should do because that will create less bigger problems down the road. And what seems like the end of the world today because you got an incomplete on your 7th grade writing assignment seems like the end of the world. Why would I ever let my kid get it incomplete? Well, it's like when you're a senior, that grade's probably a little bit more important. So you better learn to have your stuff. So we're trying to find that balance in our own lives right now. I don't pretend to sit here and say we have it all figured out, but the notion of letting people fail in a world where we don't accept failure very well as a society is probably the greatest thing we can do for other people, and then be alongside them to help them identify why they failed and what we can do to prevent it from happening again when the stakes might be a little bit higher. But that is a very delicate balance. I don't know if I even answered your question. I don't have the answer to your question. If you figure it out, let me know.
Final question here.
John here. Fantastic stories. So the football, the broadcasting, the family, your son rallying around him. If you had to pick one or two, your top achievement or accomplishment where you're standing there and said in your entire career, your life, this is the one, what would that be?
Our family, taking our family's journey with TJ in the last 13 years, turning it into our program here in town. I don't know, for those of you who don't live here, I don't know if you're familiar with our program, but our Hardest Yard program, we've contributed upwards of $12 million that we've raised for Levine Children's Hospital. So if you went right down the street here, okay. If you just went, for those of you who aren't from Charlotte, if you just went right down Moorhead a mile, that would be the main campus of the Children's Hospital. It's called Levine Children's Hospital. It's one of the top children's hospitals in all of the United States. Their pediatric cardiac program is a national leader in multiple areas. Very good. That's where TJ's had all of his surgery. So following TJ's diagnosis, following TJ getting through his second of his 3 surgeries. So in 2013, we started the Hardest Yard, and what started as an in-home private nursing program that we completely funded for all families discharged following cardiac intervention at Levine Children's. We funded that program in its entirety, and that still exists to this day. We built a 25,000 square foot state-of-the-art comprehensive congenital heart center called the Hardest Yard Congenital Heart Center right there on campus attached to the hospital. All of the subspecialties of all the difference from the echo lab to adult and pediatric congenital heart, transplant program, the neural development program, all of it is founded and housed now all in one outpatient clinic that we supported and that we paid for it, in essence. We have endowed chairs. We've expanded down to Charleston at the MUSC Children's Hospital, where now we've given them $1 million to build out their Hardest Yard program, family support, some mental health stuff. The challenges of South Carolina and North Carolina are a little bit different. So there's no question when our time in Charlotte is done, I hope when people look back on our family, and we've had a lot of good moments on that field, we've won a lot of games, we've caught touchdowns, we've been to the Super Bowl, we've done a lot of really good things. Hopefully, the thing that people remember about our family is they took a really difficult journey. They took a really difficult road with themselves personally, and were able to spin it and pay forward and really improve the lives and the experience of people that are going to come down the road that we've been on for the last 13 years. Hopefully we leave that road a little bit easier, the care, the access, the advancements. Hopefully we play a little bit of a small role in that experience for them. And when we meet these families at our events, or we meet these families out in the community and they tell us, I didn't have to leave my job because your nurse comes to our house every day to care for my daughter, or whatever the personal anecdote is, that to me is by far the greatest thing we've ever accomplished. And our hope is to do it forever.
Thank you.
Yeah.